Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about top 10 ERP systems for small businesses in 2025. So let's start.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
My name is Sam Gupta. I'm principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent, vendor-agnostic technology advisory firm. We help our clients with technology selection, change management, digital transformation and strategy. On that note, let's go back to today's topic. But before we look at the list, let's align our expectations in terms of what a small business for us. In general, we consider a small business when they are going to be in that 10 million to roughly $100 million in revenue, or a comparable metrics if the revenue metrics may not be reliable for certain industries, for example, pharmaceuticals or medical device. In general, for this list, we consider all of the industries. So generally, I'm going to make comments where each of the products are going to shine in which industries. So pay attention to that. But this might come across as slightly generalized because we are covering all of the industries. So even though this is a great list, but the same order may not be applicable for each of the industries, and some of the products may not even be relevant for those industries. So pay close attention to the commentary as I talk about each of the product. In this particular case, it's going to be only small companies. That is the segment that we have captured. And generally, these companies are going to have a limited implementation budget as well. It might not be as limited as startups. In this case, they have grown to a certain extent, and now they might be utilizing, let's say, the second ERP, because now they understand their needs a little bit better compared to the startup segment where they might be able to manage without an ERP. Sometimes they need, depending upon their business model and how many challenges they have operationally. Sometimes companies do need at the early stage, but generally for a startup, you probably don't need. But we have seen companies up to, let's say, 30, 40, 50, sometimes even $100 million manage easily on QuickBooks. Again, they are not going to have as much process maturity or the operational efficiency, but just because they have margins, so they can probably manage until that. But the other companies are probably going to require. So 30 million is that point when most companies require some sort of consolidation from the process perspective, and they are going to require some sort of ERP systems. Again, the service industries might be different compared to the product industries. In general, the product industries, you are probably going to require ERP at $30 million point. These companies are not going to be as mature with their planning, even though they are going to need the ERP system, but they don't understand their planning as much at this point of time, and they would not be able to use those capabilities. So the systems that we generally identify as part of this bucket are going to be slightly simpler in planning. They are not going to be as rich from the planning perspective because they might be over bloated for the companies at this stage. And they might not have any sort of appetite for the custom integration or development. So the systems that are part of this particular market segment, you are going to find that they have much bigger ecosystems in general. They rely on a lot of different add-ons, etc. So that is one thing to note. Now, the criteria we have used for this list is product share, acquisition strategy focused on small business ERP, product roadmap, community ecosystem, win rate, technology strategy, as well as the investors. So now let's look at the list. Number 10 on our list is Sage Intacct. And Sage Intacct for a smaller segment, it's a great product for service-centric industries, as well as the companies that are going to be either in regulated industries or they are going to be publicly traded. In general, the accounting and finance functionality is much richer. It is designed for those companies to keep in mind that they are going to be very audit heavy, etc. Now, the con of this particular feature or the capability is that for these startups that are looking for slightly simpler system, they don't necessarily have the audit requirements. For those, these capabilities might feel a little overwhelming. So that's going to be a con. So depending upon where you are in your business model and what you need, this could be a great fit for a regulated as well as the audit centric and the publicly traded companies. The strengths that we have from the Sage Interact perspective is it's great as a corporate financial ledger, just because it's not going to have as deep operational capabilities. So it's going to rely on a lot of different add-ons that you are going to need. But it is great for global companies just because the number of countries that it can support from the localization perspective that most of the systems might not be able to do that. The other plus that you have from the Sage Interact perspective is it is one of the best cloud native technology in the market. So their technology is superior in general compared to the other products. So that's a huge plus for Sage Interact as well. Now the limitations to keep in mind is they are going to have limited focus in terms of the industries. So that could be a little con there, especially if you are going to be in the product centric industries. It might be harder for you to be able to utilize Sage Interact just because those layers are not supported as part of the core product. And even if you are able to find add-ons, generally there are going to be issues with the implementation, as well as the way these two components are going to work together. So that could be a little limitation, especially if your business model is going to be complex. And then other limitations is just overly complicated security as well as the accounting capabilities. Sometimes users don't like that just because it can come across as overwhelming. Again, depending upon what you care for. So if you are going to be in the regulated industries, then you don't have a choice. You have to use those. That's why the product is designed that way. But if you are not in those industries, then it might feel a little overwhelming. That is something to keep in mind. And then you might run into integration as well as implementation challenges, and purely because it's going to use a lot more add-ons, and generally more add-ons they might lead to implementation issues in general. But again, if you require a horizontal product that is going to be implemented across your holding companies, private equity companies, then Sage Interact could be a great product. So that's number 10. Number 9 on our list is Appicore Kinetic. And Appicore Kinetic is a very good product for industrial manufacturing as well as distribution companies, especially if you are going to have flavors of both business models where you need manufacturing plus distribution. In general, it is much deeper from the discrete perspective. It might not have as deep capabilities from the process perspective. But let's say if you are a discrete company and you require minor process manufacturing centric capabilities, for example, let's say if you are going to be in industries such as packaging, for those, Appicore Kinetic would be a great fit. Now, some of the unique layers that Appicore Kinetic has is that it is designed for regulated manufacturing. For example, let's say if you look at aerospace startups, for those, revision number that you're going to have, that is probably going to be mandated, from the engineering change control process perspective. So for those industries, it is probably going to be a great fit. Also has some of the other unique features. For example, let's say if you're going to have a parts that does not need to have the part number, for example, phantom centric functionality, that those capabilities are great for Appicore, and that's why when you are going to have very complex inventory, and that inventory needs to be carried throughout the process, upstream, downstream, and these are going to have the attributes. So some systems that we have in the market, they might have attributes, but then those attributes may not be part of the planning. So that's where you sort of run into challenges. But with Appicore, it is designed for those complex inventory centric industries, the regulated industries. So that's where Appicore Kinetic is a great fit. And then Epicure Kinetic is also going to be very mature overall from the last mile functionality for manufacturing, etc. So that's a huge plus. Limitations to keep in mind is it's probably going to require substantial consulting help, and it is probably going to be really big product for the smaller organization. So that's a negative for Epicure Kinetic, especially if you're going to be limited on your implementation budget. And then from the industry and business model perspective, it might have slightly limited focus. So you need to keep that in mind. And the ecosystem in the consulting base is limited as well compared to the other products. So those are some of the limitations, and that's number 9. Number 8 on our list is Aptean Food and Beverage ERP. And just like your Epicor Kinetic, Aptean is a very prescriptive product for smaller food and beverage manufacturers. So their scope is going to be limited to that. If you have a business model that requires functionality beyond your food and beverage manufacturing, then you probably are going to require another product, or you are going to outgrow this particular product. But if your business model is fairly consistent and you don't expect that you are ever going to outgrow that business model, then you might get much richer functionality from the food and beverage perspective. Some strengths to keep in mind is it's built on top of Microsoft Dynamics Business Central platform. So that's a huge plus, especially if you are familiar with other Microsoft products. In general, the Microsoft products are not going to have as deep operational capabilities. So you get best of both worlds here on the same product. Then it's also going to be pre-integrated suite and relatively cloud native, again, because it's developed on top of Microsoft Dynamics Business Central. Limitations to keep in mind is limited consulting base as well as the ecosystem. So the Aptean specific IP that you're going to have, that is not going to have as much consulting base as well as ecosystem. So for the most part, you're relying on Aptean for the consulting help. Then it's also going to be limited focus, and add-on code might not be as well constructed or documented. So that's going to be some negative for this product as well. So that's number 8. Number 7 on our list is Epicor Profit 21. And Epicor Profit 21 is a very focused product for industrial distributors. Now, strengths to keep in mind from the Epicor Profit 21 perspective is it's ideal for industrial distributors. The reason for that is number 1, it's going to have very specific capabilities that are going to be applicable only for industrial distributors. For example, you look at capabilities such as buying groups or transactions related to buying groups. All of those capabilities are supported as part of the product. Epicor Profit 21 is also going to be prevalent among the other integrations that are going to be common among industrial distributors. For example, let's say if you talk about any of the e-commerce platforms. So the e-commerce platforms that are known in the industrial distributor space, they are going to have integration with Epicor Profit. And then some other strengths is mature cloud capabilities. Again, from the industrial distribution perspective, the cloud capabilities are going to be far mature. Limitations to keep in mind is even though it has capabilities, but it's going to be a complex product for the smaller companies, especially if they are going to be limited in their implementation, consulting, training budget. It is also going to have limited focus overall from the capabilities perspective. So if you are going to be very diverse in your business model and focus, then this you might outgrow this, or you might require other ERP system to be able to support those processes. For example, let's say if you're a distributor plus manufacturer, manufacturing is not going to be as deep with this product. Limited ecosystem and consulting base, just like Epicor Kinetic. So that's going to be a limitation as well. And that's number 7. Number 6 on our list is Infor Cloud Suite Industrial. And Infor Cloud Suite Industrial is a very comparable product, just like your Epicor Kinetic. For the most part, it is designed for manufacturing companies. It might not have as rich distribution processes. Infor has another product for industrial distribution. This one is designed for manufacturing. The real difference between Infor Cloud Suite Industrial and Epicor Kinetic is going to be in those industries, especially when you talk about complex inventory centric industries. For those, Epicor Kinetic may be richer. And when you talk about, for example, let's say field service centric industries, where your warranty centric processes need to be supported after the production, you have very complex bombs, etc. If that is the case, then Infor Cloud Suite Industrial tend to do better in those industries. Infor Cloud Suite Industrial also does better with, let's say, the configuration or configurator-centric industries, even though Epicor Kinetic is going to have configurator as well. In general, App in 4 Cloud Suite Industrial is slightly more customizable compared to the other products. But then with that, you also introduce complexity of customization as well. The other strengths to keep in mind from the Infor CSI perspective is the last mile capabilities that you have that are pre-integrated, that comes packaged as part of the same package. And then you are also going to get Infor OS, so you don't have to buy separate licenses for the iPaaS. So that's going to be a huge strength for Infor CSI. Now, limitations to keep in mind is requires consulting help to be successful with the product, just like any other product that are going to be slightly complex. So you need to keep that in mind. It's also going to have limited focus. So if you are very diverse from the business model perspective, then this might not be the best fit. And ecosystem as well as consulting ways, it's not going to be as prevalent as some of the other products that we have on this list. So that's number 6. Number 5 on our list is Rootstock. And Rootstock is ideal for smaller manufacturers, especially in the project manufacturing, engineer to order, medical device, and sometimes in the distribution space as well. It does really well. The strengths with Rootstock is number 1, the Salesforce platform, cloud native experience, as well as the AI capabilities that are going to be enabled from the Salesforce perspective. So that's a huge plus for Rootstock. So if you want an AI ready system, Rootstock should be one of the system that you should be including as part of your evaluation. Some of the other strengths that we have for Rootstock is it's pre-integrated with other best of breed Salesforce apps. So if you are already on Salesforce and if you are heavily invested in Salesforce and you care for that experience, then Rootstock should be the platform that you should be definitely evaluating. Then cloud native as well as mobile friendly. Obviously, that's a huge plus. Some of the legacy systems that we have on this list, they might not be as cloud native mobile friendly. And then limitations to keep in mind from the Rootstock perspective is data integrity and the financial control issues. So those are some limitations. The finance module, the way Rootstock is designed, it's not going to be as rich as some of the other products that we have on this list. So do your research in terms of what you care for. Do you care for more of the AI cloud native centric experience, or do you require deep finance capability? So that's where you need to sort of evaluate your own priorities, what is important for you. So that's going to be a little limitation for Rootstock. And then their install base right now is not as much as the other products. But again, it's not as low as well that you have to worry about Rootstock. Rootstock is a very well adopted product in general. They are part of the Salesforce ecosystem, one of the biggest ERP in the Salesforce ecosystem. So that's a huge plus for Rootstock. And then the consulting base as well as ecosystem, even though they are signing one of the best consulting firms and one of the largest consulting firms that other vendors are not going to have access to. So Rootstock is doing a lot more in those spaces, getting a lot more enterprise logos, so which is a huge plus for their momentum. So that's number 5. Number 4 on our list is NetSuite. And NetSuite is ideal for smaller companies that are going to be slightly global in nature and they don't care for as much operational capabilities supported as part of the platform. In general, from the industry perspective, they do really well in service centric industries or e-commerce retail centric industries. The strengths to keep in mind is it has diverse capabilities to be able to support many different business models, but then they also have the ecosystem and you can acquire a lot more capabilities from there as well. And then finally, the global capabilities are one of the best in general with NetSuite. Limitations to keep in mind is it does require consulting. So for smaller companies, that might be a little challenge. The data model in general might be slightly weaker compared to the other products. And then the last mile capabilities, they are going to be supported by third-party add-ons. So those are some of the limitations. And that's number. Number 3 on our list is Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. And Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central is a very comparable product to NetSuite. And they are going to be as globally penetrated as NetSuite. and they will require a lot more add-ons as well, just like NetSuite. But Microsoft ecosystem may be slightly bigger than NetSuite. They are probably going to have very similar number of installations, but sometimes it's very hard to find out how many installations they have. From the Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central perspective, but they are as penetrated as NetSuite. The strengths to keep in mind is the diverse capabilities, ecosystem, as well as global capabilities. And then the limitations to keep in mind is it's going to require consulting help just because the product is slightly more complex. There are some challenges overall from the channel perspective. So it's not the product or Microsoft issue. So that's where you need to do a little bit of more research in understanding which reseller, which SI you are dealing with. And sometimes there could be challenges because of that, just because you have not done your own due diligence in understanding which partner has the right IP. So we see a lot of implementation issues because of that. That's where you need to do a little bit of due diligence. The limited mature last mile capabilities. So they are not going to have as mature last mile capabilities as with the other products, the focus product that we have on the list. But depending upon whether you require the focus product or do you need slightly more horizontal product that you can use globally or in your holding company portfolio or private equity, if that is the case with you, then Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central is probably going to be for you, and that's number 3. Number 2 on our list is SysPro. And SysPro is ideal fit for smaller companies, especially in the discrete and process manufacturing companies. The strengths to keep in mind from the SysPro perspective is the data model overall is very rich. It has deep ERP capabilities compared to other smaller products, and then it is also going to have those operational capabilities. So that's a huge plus for SysPro, and ability to support diverse business models, as well as it's going to be SQL based. So those are some of these strengths. The limitations to keep in mind is it does require consulting help, just like any other ERP like products, unless you are dealing with very simple products that are going to support only transactions. If that is the case, then you might not need consulting help. But for the most part, the products that are going to be real ERP, you would require consulting help. It might be slightly harder to learn compared to the other easier products, but again, it's not going to be as hard as the larger product. For example, let's say SysPro, if you compare this with NetSuite, NetSuite is far bigger product globally, just because it is going to have all of those complicated layers of multi-entity functionality, etc. With SysPro, it's going to be much easier, especially 90% of these smaller companies are probably going to be present in one country. They are not going to have as many entities. So you don't necessarily have complications of those multi-entity companies. And that's where SysPro is going to be a better fit because it's not going to have all of those layers that you don't need, right? And then some other limitations to keep in mind is that their cloud nativeness may not be as much as some of the other platforms that we have on the list, just because it's slightly legacy platform, but they have upgraded their technology. So you probably would not experience anything there in terms of the differentiation with respect to technology. But there is something to keep in mind that they might not be as cloud native as some of the other products that we have on this list. So that's number 2. Number 1 on our list is Acumatica. And Acumatica is ideal for smaller businesses, especially if they are going to have very complex business models that need to be supported as part of one product database. So here, the business models that you're looking for is distribution, field service, manufacturing, construction, e-com, professional services. If you have all of these business models as part of your business and you need to support that as part of one database, then Acumatica could be a great fit. And this is why Acumatica is probably a better fit for those smaller companies because they might not require as deep multi-entity global capabilities. That's where Acumatica is slightly limited, but they are probably going to require richer operational capabilities. That's where Acumatica is a great fit. The strengths to keep in mind from the Acumatica's perspective is it's a very scalable ERP. They also have the consumption-based pricing. That's a huge plus, especially if you are going to be slightly seasonal business. And in that, your user is probably going to spike a lot. In that case, sometimes the consumption-based price could be favorable. And the other strength is it's not as bloated with the global and the accounting center capabilities that you are going to find with some of the other products. Now, limitations to keep in mind is does it require consulting help? Pricing might be harder to predict with growth. That is with any consumption-based pricing. And then it might be slightly harder to learn compared to the other products, again, because of the richer layers. And so you would require a lot more training, consulting with this product, and that's number one. If you enjoyed this video, this was supposed to be brief. So if you require more depth and details, then we are going to link a report that you might want to download. The QR code is going to be published all through the video. And then if you have not downloaded our digital transformation report, that is also a great place to learn about these products as well as list that we publish every single year. We publish these videos on a weekly basis. So if you have not subscribed, you might want to do that if you don't want to miss our videos. This podcast is also available in the audio form on major podcasting platform. So you might want to check and subscribe. On that note, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.